Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of the Sarasota Film Festival, Mark Familio.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming today. I'd like to introduce Father Matthew Grady from the chaplain at Cardinal Mooney High School.
Good afternoon, everyone, and just want to say thank you for inviting us and our students to be here today. It's a privilege for us to recognize Sister and be part of this event. For all the great hard work that she does, it's a good time to come together and celebrate and think of those good things, all the wonderful gifts that God has given to us. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all the gifts that you give us in this life, in this world. We thank you for Sister, her presence, her ministry among her people, and her witness to the world at large. Give us always a heart for the poor. Give us always the mind of Jesus, to seek and to save the lost. We thank you for all of this. Bless this food. Bless those who go without. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Today we're going to be hearing from Sister Rosemary from Uganda. Sister Rosemary was a CNN hero designated by the network. Many of you may be familiar with that program. She's been endorsed by President Clinton, Forrest Whitaker, and many, many other luminaries. We're very, very proud to have her with us today. Among many, many things, she has served as a spokesperson and really the voice of young women from Uganda who have been abused and maligned and pillaged, and whose lives would have been destroyed if not for Sister Rosemary by the resistance army in Uganda, which is an incredibly fierce and awful army in Uganda, which finally is coming to the public light, and which we're really, really proud that we can participate in uncovering and unveiling some of the atrocities and giving Sister Rosemary an opportunity to speak about what she and her organization is doing to attempt to right the lives of some of these young children. To speak more about this from the UN Women organization, please welcome Carol Poteet Buchanan.
I always think these things are taller than I am. I have a problem. My name is Carol Poteet Buchanan, and I'm the immediate past president of the U.S. National Committee for UN Women. In 2010, thank you. In 2010, in July, the United Nations General Assembly created UN Women, the United Nations entity for gender equality and the empowerment of women. The creation of UN Women came about as part of the UN reform agenda to bring together resources and mandates for greater impact. UN Women is a merger of 4 previously distinct parts of the UN system, only one of which focused exclusively on gender equality and women's empowerment. In combining resources, UN member states took an historic step in accelerating the organization's goals on gender equality and the empowerment of women. And yet, gender inequalities remain deeply entrenched in every society. Women lack access to decent work and face occupational segregation and gender wage gaps. They are too often denied access to basic education and health care. Women are underrepresented in political and economic decision-making processes, and in all parts of the world suffer violence and discrimination, even in areas where there are laws which are designed to protect them. Today's tributee, Sister Rosemary Rumbe, is a shining example of how a single woman dedicated to healing and caring for others can be a powerful force for change in the lives of women in her nation and a beacon of hope for women everywhere. During the bloody war in Uganda, thousands of young women suffered horrors and brutality at the hands of the Lord's Resistance Army, a guerrilla group led by the notorious Joseph Kony. These horrors included being abducted to serve as sex slaves, as well as being forced to become unwilling fighters in their ongoing war. Taking these women under her wing, Sister Rosemary taught them how to sew, a skill which will enable them to be self-sufficient while confronting the nefarious legacy of the LRA. Through her unyielding faith, Sister Rosemary has created a safe haven, the St. Monica Girls' School in Gulu, northern Uganda, where Kony's rebels had a significant presence. While the school teaches women how to sew and make handbags with recyclable materials, Sister Rosemary has also created a program that instills a strong work ethic so these young women can move on with their lives. Most importantly, she teaches them to love themselves and their children, who are a constant reminder of their difficult past. Many of these women are shunned and scorned by their families and villages. They are viewed as part of the rebel movement and stigmatized. Furthermore, according to Acholi traditions, and that's one of the main tribes in Uganda, children are viewed as property of their father, not their mother. And if the father is not an Acholi, the child is deemed unworthy. But understanding the overwhelming roadblocks these women and girls face, Sister Rosemary encourages them to embrace their brutal past while considering the possibility of a brighter future through their faith in God and themselves. Let's take a look at the work of Sister Rosemary Nyirumbi.
There's a corner of the world that has lived without peace for over 25 years. It began as an attempt to overthrow the Ugandan government by a man named Joseph Kony. His band of rebels, called the Lord's Resistance Army, would kidnap children from the villages they raided and turn them into soldiers. The LRA stole thousands of children. 6 years after Kony fled northern Uganda, these girls were released from physical bondage, but they still remained enslaved. The guns have stopped firing, but the war still remains for one woman who directs a small tailoring school in Gulu, Uganda. She fights for these girls using sewing machines and pop tabs.
It's really very difficult to define hope, but it's something which I would just say I start living it now. To think about hope, walking towards hope, I like to live now positively. My hope starts now. I'm not going to think of yesterday. And that's why I tell the girls, the past is gone, you're not going to recover it. But you can live today, and if you live today, you're living tomorrow. I don't accept accept rubbish, okay? If you are sewing rubbish, nobody will buy. Get up, I show you. You see? You don't go completely here. So then when you open, you have it already folded. You see, yeah? It will be like this. Can you learn that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I get it done, badly done, I will open it all. In fact, yes. For me, I don't take rubbish. What I've realized is that whatever I do, I must think back and say I must do it with love. If they don't understand it now, they will understand that it is love which is compelling me to do whatever I do to them.
Sister Rosemary began to look for opportunities to provide training and resources to girls who desperately need it.
Practical dressmaking and other subjects we were giving is okay, but then we would need to get something which could be more marketable, which would be something people would like even internationally. And so we decided that we would introduce these girls more to practical things, like how to make pop tabs, puzzles.
Each pop tab is brought from the United States by a non-profit organization called Pros for Africa. Sister Rosemary then distributes the pop tabs to the girls, giving them orders for a number of purses. After the girls complete their purses, she pays them for their work. Each bag will sell in the United States for between $100 and $275. The payments are enough to pay for a semester's worth of school fees.
Now, who among you has not received money?
Sister, thank you very much.
Okay.
Sister Rosemary is just amazing. It's just all about giving back. She impacted a lot.
Sister Rosemary opened the doors to those young ladies, and now those ladies have a newfound respect for themselves. They have an inner strength, and you see that excitement in them.
When I think of Sister Rosemary, she's definitely inspired me in a way that I want to do the same thing that she's doing. I want to be a part of what she has done.
She helped mentor these young women, guide them. She's definitely making a difference.
When you can actually see something you're doing, the finished product, and you can see it at work, it puts a smile on your face, and it's a different type of feeling, man.
You feel like she's really fighting, to help those kids. It's something like she said, she can do it by himself.
Probably one of the amazing women I didn't heard a story, like that, and it's a great heart and wanting to help people.
We're put on this earth really to help people, and I think with the platform we have as NBA players, we can do a little bit more. She's such a great lady with such a big heart, somebody we all can learn from.
The lesson Sister Rosemary is teaching those girls and get them to think about today and tomorrow, not yesterday, by purging their hearts of justifiable hatred and resentment. Sister Rosemary liberates them.
More than 2,000 girls who were kidnapped and orphaned by the LRA have found refuge at St. Monica's Tailoring School in Uganda. Guided by Sister Rosemary. They make beautiful clothes, they grow nutritious foods, they learn valuable trades, they reclaim a bright future, and they find hope.
I want to congratulate you, Sister Rosemary, for receiving the Sarasota Film Festival's Impact Award. Your work at the St. Monica School for Girls is monumental. The fact that you're being able to bring to them new hope, new life, new opportunities, new trainings, and the work that you've done with them and so many others has allowed us to dream again, because your work is so powerful. I'm so proud that I got an opportunity to work with you and to work with the girls that have been spawned from you. Congratulations, Sister Rosemary. I love you.
On behalf of the Sarasota Film Festival and the Gulf Coast chapter of the U.S. National Committee for UN Women, it is my honor to present this year's Impact Award to Sister Rosemary Nyirumbe.
If there is anybody who has a problem with microphone, it's me, because I always find them a bit taller than me. I'm overwhelmed, and I'm greatly honored today, and at the same time, I feel this is the most humbling experience for me, to be a recipient for this prestigious award. And I would like to thank in a special way Sarasota Film Festival, the president, and the committee. And also, I want to thank sincerely all the women, UN women, and all those who have been on this council for having chosen me to be a recipient for this prestigious award. It has never been in my dream at all to be able to receive this award or to be able to speak to people about what has been hidden for so long, for so many years. The time I started working in northern Uganda, what convinced me was one simple thing. In the first place, I grew up in a very humble family, and I learned from my own mother, who never had a chance to go to school or to study, the importance, the role of women, the importance of women in the society. Because my own mother, despite lack of education, was able to think of the future, was able to keep us walking in hope. And she always told us, the society is changing. You need to study, you need to go to school. My mother made a statement which we don't forget up to today. She said, I will do everything in my life, even if it means I have to sell the only clothes I have, walk naked, but I will send you to school. That remains stuck with me forever. And my own family, too, taught me so many things, and especially valuing the vulnerable people. In my family, we had to share the little we had with the people who were mostly in need. Sometimes, as little ones, we would go without eating and we go with hunger. The only conviction would be that morning would still come. But we were able to share with everybody. Along the way, there are so many people who have supported me to do what I am doing. When the Lost Resistance Army started their war in northern Uganda, I was there, I was present right from the beginning, and I've been a product of this war for so many years, and it's one of the things which has convinced me to do what I'm doing, to promote women, to bring their pain and suffering to light, and also make them live above their pain and keep them moving in hope. The people who made me to be what I am today, people who convinced me, who believed in what I'm doing, have been so many. And today, the UN Women and Sarasota Film Festival, you have joined to believe in me and to believe in what I'm doing. Thank you so, so much for this. When I started accepting these young women who were abducted by rebels, it was just out of compassion and love and the conviction that I, having been a product of this war and knowing the culture, which of course disadvantages women, it makes women to be less important. It prefers boys to women in all ways. And having been part of this culture and having reached a certain stage, I decided to go back and say, I'm going to promote young women who are suffering in the same way, and especially people in my culture. And I decided to stand up and defend these women, even in front of very, very difficult situations. I had to face sometimes these rebels and tell them off. There are a lot of them who came sometimes to the school to ask me if I can give back their wives. And the tool I could use was the knowledge of my own culture. I would ask them, did you marry her? If you say, I did not marry her, she was living with me, then I would say, she was not your wife, she's not your wife, she was your sex slave. I kindly ask you to go out. That was something which helped me to continue doing what I'm doing. And it was not because I was strong, and I'm still not strong. If you come to read the book, you will find I have some strong phobia. I've got some strong fear of things which you would not want to hear about, and I don't want to mention. Reggie always makes fun of me about it, but it is a very strong fear within me. But yet, at the same time, I had to stand up in face of adversities. I made my simple prayer. I said, God, if I have to meet these rebels face to face, let me see your face in them so that they don't hurt me, and let them see your face in me so that they don't hurt me. That is the prayer of a fearful person. You can all hear it. When I met Reggie, Mr. Reggie Whitten, a long time in 2002, it was a time when I was working single-handedly, a most painful moment when I was receiving so many children who are called night commuters, which are known by the international community as invisible children. I used to have so many of them, thousands, who were coming to take refuge in St. Monica. I was protecting them single-handedly. And the only cry I would say is, would people ever hear me? Would they get the voice of these children and just meet their needs, especially food, accommodation, and everything? And it was so hard until when I met Reggie, and Reggie always convinced me that I had to speak. I had to speak. It was not easy for me to speak. It was not easy for me to accept to be in the film. I didn't like to appear on this screen. But later I got convinced that it's not about me, it's about speaking on behalf of the voiceless. That's how I accepted to speak. And I will continue speaking. I will continue standing for women to bring them to the mainstream in as much as I can give my life as a small contribution. I would like to thank you all for your great involvement, and I will not forget what I tell everybody. From the time you hear me, from the time you watch the film, from the time you read the book, if you don't get involved, I will blame you. If you don't watch the film and you don't read the book, I will not blame you. Hold me excused. I want to thank you again, and I want to thank also my special people, the Frank PR, Lina is here. She's telling me that I want to thank her very, very much because they have brought me to this main light and they've done a lot for me, and I think they will continue doing. Women, I'm very proud of you. I'm very happy that you're putting me to be part of you, and I will continue. Help me to continue touching more lives in the rural heart of Uganda. Come with me, heal the wounds, work together, and please do not be afraid to come and see for yourselves what's going on. Women are out there crying. They need people who can walk with them, giving them hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sister Rosemary, for your incredible words and for being here. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank our guest today from Cardinal Mooney from Booker High for joining us for this event. And to conclude this afternoon's program, I want to introduce you to Mr. Reggie Whitten. He was born in Seminole, Oklahoma, and spent 20 years as a corporate defense attorney and co-founder and senior partner of Whitten Burridge. He was named one of the top defense lawyers in the United States. My father is a defense lawyer, and he's not as good as Reggie, I can tell you that much. Whitten is co-founder of the nonprofit Pros for Africa. He currently serves on several boards, including the Board of Remote Area Medical, the Board of Trustees of the Executive Committee of the Foundation for the Oklahoma City Public Schools, and Board of Health Alliance for the Uninsured, among many others. We're so proud to have him here and for having him connect us with Sister Rosemary and bringing Sowing Hope to our festival and to our community. Here to say a few words and tell you a little bit more about the project, Reggie Whitten.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever been in the presence of so many powerful women, and I want to thank all of you on my behalf and Sister Rosemary's behalf, and thank the Film Festival for having us. As you probably noted, I carried my purse up here. I'm going to talk about it for just a moment. I did not have to go to law school to know that you should never follow Sister Rosemary in speaking. However, I had no choice. I will say this, though. I've been asked about 50 times so far, how does a lawyer from Oklahoma come, especially one who grew up in the Baptist church, come to become best friends with a little nun from the other side of the world in Africa? So I will answer it one more time up here. In 2002, like many in the richest country in the world, I was lost and I had no hope. I had just buried my firstborn son, who became addicted to prescription drugs, which is an epidemic raging across this country. And so I was lost, and one of my crazy friends dragged me to Uganda, which I had never really heard of. I knew nothing about Joseph Kony or the Lord's Resistance Army, and I was totally unafraid because I had lost hope. And I got up in the northern part of Uganda where we were really not supposed to go, and I got to see something you can only read about and see in the movie. But I got to see what was happening up there. There was no law enforcement. There was no hope for these women. These madmen were carrying machetes and guns, and they were terrorized. But this little lady was quite unusual. She was openly defying Kony. She was on the radio asking the children to come stay at her school. And it's hard for me to talk about this and not cry, but between 300 and 500 of these girls would come every night and stay there at the school. And she's the one that had to look them in the eye when they came to the door. And I've never had anybody put a gun in my face or a machete, but they were killing tens of thousands of children, and she was unafraid. Now, it's sad that in this world, the bad guys are always the ones that history remembers. They never remember the real heroes. So we began to take a few video vignettes. We never meant to make a movie. And we started documenting some of these children. All these little girls wanted to do was tell what happened. They wanted someone to listen. And I turned to my young filmmaker and I said, Derek, we've got to make a film out of this. The world has got to hear this. And I'm not a book writer, I'm a lawyer. But I put my talents of writing to writing a book. And if there's any flaws in the book, it's my fault, because I'm not an author. But the story has got to be told. That's how we keep history from repeating itself. This little lady is very unique, as you just saw. So we don't have much to work with. She doesn't have much to work with, but she works with what she has. These children have value. They're no different than my children, and they're no different than your children. So, you may see at your table, I think there's just one of these at each table, but Sister Rosemary got a hold of a story that I heard when I was a little kid about the starfish. You've heard the starfish story? About the little girl who takes a starfish and throws it back, and somebody said, why are you wasting your time? There's so many starfish out there. Well, the little girl said, because it matters to that starfish. And we've kind of tried to build this organization around that story. It matters to each of these girls who had their hope and their dignity stolen from them. And Sister Rosemary's giving it back. You'll notice on your table, there is a purse. Each one of these bundles has a purse in it, a t-shirt, the book. We call it a bundle of hope. And we're selling it for $400 because that coincidentally is the school fees. That'll pay school fees for a young mother and her child for a year at Sister Rosemary's School. Or the purses we're selling for $200. Now the unique thing about the purse, the hands that touched these purses are the very girls that Joseph Kony kidnapped, and they escaped. And you can't make these in America. It takes about a week for a young lady to make these purses. There's nothing else like them anywhere in the world. So help her support these children, if you would, by buying those. And the books are $25. Help us spread the word. Everybody in America needs to hear about this story. And that way, hopefully, we can keep history from repeating itself. You can find the books at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Nook, and Kindle. Again, thank you, ladies, for having us. Thank you, Sarasota Film Festival. We're honored to be here.
Thank you, Reggie. If you're interested in purchasing a purse, if you just want to put your hand up, we have folks in the room who will collect for you, and we'll make sure that that money reaches Sister Rosemary today, because if it goes into the black hole vortex of the Sarasota Film Festival, it may never come out again. So I want to make sure that we're delivering to the ladies in Uganda what they have coming for their hard work and for Sister Rosemary's dedication. So thank you. I also wanted to mention, yes. Judy's here, Charlie Ann's here. They'll be collecting envelopes if you're interested. We'd love to make a significant contribution, so thank you for anything you can do. Also, the film, Sowing Hope, we're proud to announce is sold out both screenings at the festival, but there will be seats available in the standby line. If you do not have tickets, please join us on our standby line and join us for the screening. Sister Rosemary will be there at both screenings to talk about the film as well. This is a unique event. Traditionally, we've given the Impact Award for different purposes, women in film who are doing things off camera, but we felt it very important, given the nature of this story and the extraordinary efforts of Mr. Witten and Sister Rosemary to be here with us from Uganda to make this event about this film. So we hope you'll join us. We hope you appreciate and support what the festival's doing, and we thank you for your generosity in being here. Enjoy the rest of the Sarasota Film Festival, and we thank you for your support.